Hey, everybody, and welcome back to The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker Radio. My dear friend Brandon is on the phone. Brandon.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
I'm back.
I always feel like when people introduce like a co-host, they always say, my dear friend Brandon. I don't know if that's true or not.
No, maybe without the deer, just friend.
My friend, an acquaintance, guy I co-host a poker podcast with.
That's right.
Well, pretty
Whatever.
cool.
All those introductions are good.
We're up to episode 26. 26 episodes.
How have we not ran out of stuff to talk about yet?
We kind of have. We missed last week, so this is 2 weeks from our last episode, which was The Art of Straddling, which you haven't checked out. Please check that one out. It's a doozy. I liked it.
That one's a good one, I think.
I like it, yeah.
One of our better ones.
Ton of information and like different side games that people do and things of that nature, which I always find interesting because it's weird when you think about it, how like different parts of the country have different, games that they play.
Like standardized games for their region.
Correct. Like in Texas, ROE, which you would think would stand for something different. Like what would you think an ROE game stands for?
I have no idea. Raz, Omaha, 8 or better.
That's what I thought first. I'm like, well, they're basically playing horse, but they're dumping some of the other games, so they're just playing ROE. Raz, Omaha, 8 or better, and Stud 8 or better. I'm like, random ass game, but cool, I'm in. Actually, ROE in the state of Texas means round of each. So when you're seeing on the screens, Poker Atlas and some of the different apps that tell you what games are going on when, it's typically ROE means round of each, means every round they're switching, and they do a reverse button. So like the first hand, you start with the button and the reverse button, and then that hand's finished and you're on hold'em, and then the button goes to the left like it normally does, but in ROE, the reverse button goes obviously in reverse, and then when they meet again, that's when the round switches.
Huh.
It's like the craziest shit.
Yeah.
Or if they're doing like one hand of Omaha, they'll do that one. They'll call it a reverse button. That's a cool game. Like Omaha seems to be like, it's cool in Texas, meaning they're willing to play it. But I always found that you have a much better chance of getting people to do round of each or like a one hand of Omaha versus all Omaha, because I still think people are moderately nervous about Omaha in general.
Agree.
Yeah.
So now in Chicago, you start with round of each or round by round, 2 orbits in, and you're playing all Omaha.
Well, let's just stop there. Round by round is typically what we call it. So it should be like RBR, round by round.
Right.
We don't call it ROE, although they both make sense. It's just funny how like the geographic regions that you're in it's the same game but different. But anyways, go ahead. So when you start round by round, what happens then?
It's just always PLO.
Yeah, it just ends up
you
being
start
PLO.
with a round to hold them because
you like sucker them in.
Start.
You just pull them in. Pull in those Hold'em guys. Come on, Hold'em guys, come play with us. It's great. You're going to love it.
And then you play around a PLO, and a couple guys get stuck.
You get the hook in them.
And then you go back to Hold'em, and then that second round of Hold'em is just like brutal. Everyone's like,
ugh,
come on, dude. Like, let's just get back. And then you switch back to PLO, and then that's it for Hold'em.
It's
all PLO.
Yeah, there's no action. Nobody wants to play it.
2 guys just sit out and they're like, I'll wait for PLO for that round.
100%. That always happens.
Fold. There's like one big hand in the orbit, and then after that it goes to PLO, and then it's like, all right, all PLO. We ain't going back to Hold'em.
Or you can, at that point, convince enough people to say we're going to do it and then go from there. Which brings us to our episode topic of the day, right? Episode 26, The Art of the Short Game and Benefits of COVID.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the actual name I'm going to use, but basically what we want to talk about today is shorthanded play. Now, we did an episode called GTO gameplay for shorthanded games. That was episode 20. But we're going to not talk about like GTO
strategy,
right?
And
like just like the idea of shorthanded games and how we can turn this horrible pandemic into kind of some bonuses and stuff for poker in general, and what we can take from this and say, you know what, this was actually a great idea. Let's keep doing that. And then other things will be like, that sucked. Let's go back to this way, Yeah.
So one thing, I mean, just to dive right in, I mean, we've seen since poker started in 2000, When did TCG start? 2006, 2007?
Officially 7. The first official event was 2007.
Right. Everything was basically 10-handed back then. Right? 10-handed was kind
100%.
of standard
Cash
tournament
games
play.
were 10. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, cash games might have been 9, but
nope.
For every tournament
cash games were 10-handed. I remember.
Right.
Because I remember making the switch to 9.
So we went 10-handed basically everything. And then kind of through the years, we kind of realized that 10's too much. 9-handed is a little bit better more game. Preferred for cash game players. We still stuck with tournaments 10-handed, but you know, as it's progressed through the 2010s and through that decade, definitely it kind of decreased from 10-handed to 9-handed, and then even to 8-handed and 7-handed became preferred. And now you have WSOP events that are 8 max. You have PLO tables that you can play on poker. Right.
Which did not exist.
Yeah. No, there was no 8-handed. It's 10-handed.
Right.
It's just a standard tournament. And then you'd still have 6 max for short-handed play was still like a variant, but it was definitely in the minority where 95% of tournaments are still 10-handed. And then there's a few 6-handed, let's just 6 max kind of gamble it up.
Because didn't even the WSOP last year, didn't they do even the main event was 9-handed?
Main event's 9-handed.
Now, how long has it been 9-handed? It's very recent, right? Like maybe last year was the first official that the actual main event did. I know other events were doing 9-handed, like other events at the WSOP.
I'm not exactly sure.
I'm like pretty sure that the main event used to be for like 2018 was actually 10-handed.
Was it?
I don't know. Maybe that's not true.
I mean, no, I really don't know. I mean, I know that my point here being is that the shift towards less players at the table is definitely relevant and exists because it started at 10-handed and now we're 9 and 8-handed. And now you have PLO games that are 7 max.
Right. It's like official. If somebody's playing a 10-handed cash game, it's like, what are you doing, bro? Like, that's not even that's so like, it's not normal. Like, it's weird.
Right, this is 2003.
Weird.
Yeah.
Take that to now, like even tournaments are now it's like 9 is like the preferred norm. Whereas before it would have been outrage to play a 9-handed tournament. And now it's like very common that tournaments are 9-handed and cash games are 9-handed. But even tournaments are now, cash games seem to be slightly ahead where it's like, all right, now it's kind of I see a shift after COVID. And this is kind of our like COVID part 6 or wherever we're at. We're not doing an official COVID episode because I don't want to do those anymore. But
we'll end on our rant.
I just don't want to do it. I'm done. I'm retired. This is now what we're talking about. The state of poker in general in August. September of 2020. Damn. Today's September 1st.
I know.
So the idea now is I think that once this pandemic and things are over and we're getting back to normal and new normal or whatever the hell we're calling it now, I think we're going to see a shift in cash games go to 8-handed. Yes or no, Brandon? I think the new normal cash game is just going to be like 8-handed because people are so used to now doing this 5s and 6s and 7s because we can't officially play bigger because we want to do more social distancing and get less players at the table, less people, in their poker bubble together, right?
Right.
What do you think? Where does it have to start at in order for this to be like a new norm? Like the new norm.
Really 8 or 7-handed even. Like 8-handed is gonna. I don't think we're gonna go back to seeing everywhere offer full 9-handed ring cash games.
They're just gonna do 8-handed games.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest here. Yeah. Let's be honest. I know we're trying to pitch this for the poker players because you and I both know it's a better game 8-handed.
Correct.
You get less nits. You get more action, and more action means a better game. I don't care what it is, if it's crazy action, Russian roulette type of action, or just a good, solid game. You need that. Getting 8 old nits at a table and 1 wild guy to make 9, that's a crappy game.
It's a pretty crappy game.
And you can't have 8 nits at a table who get there first. That's a shitty game. Nobody's going to play in that. The old guys are going to bitch.
And that's the thing about shorthanded is even the nits have to open up.
Yeah, you have to.
6-handed.
Because those blinds are coming
nature
around.
Of the game.
I think the game just moves faster, and in general, everybody likes a faster moving game. I mean, that's why PLO is so popular. That's why Texas Hold'em took over for 7-card stud. 20, 30 years ago, the number one game played was what? Stud.
Yeah,
Everybody played stud.
And limit. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like, and what my point of being is, like, let's be honest here. Casinos have no problem going 8-handed because in their mind, 16 players is now 2 games versus a 10-handed game and a 6-handed game, and the 6-handed game is reduced rake,
Correct.
So for them, it's kind of a bonus. You're not going to have a hard time convincing a poker room to say, hey, we don't want to offer 9-handed tables. We want to go to 8 max. And really, we'd like to be at 7. 7's the new norm.
Yeah, I think like for
far.
all mixed games, like even PLO, like
7's
I would prefer 7-handed game.
Way better.
I don't want 9. I want 7.
I'm always excited when the game's 6 or 7-handed. Now, granted, the problem, and we talk about this, it's kind of a state of poker right now for PLO. The PLO live games have kind of died off, right?
They have.
And the reason they die off is why, Brandon?
Well,
it's your theory, so I want you to get credit for it.
Oh, great. I appreciate that. So 6 max game. The problem with PLO is that at any point in time, those 6 players could be there all day, or 2 guys can get soaked in the first hour, and now you're down to a 4-handed game. So the issue with PLO is you really need a list. You really need 8 guys there for the 6-handed game, but you need 2 guys willing to wait, and they might be waiting an hour, or they might never get in the game.
Like, you need 2 guys willing to play 1-3 or 2-5 hold'em in a different game to kind of be there, literally ready and raring to go for the call up to the big leagues of PLO. The problem that you have with the 6-handed game is that if you got 6 guys there and no list, and you get a big hand, and 3 guys go all in, and 1 guy wins, and the other 2 guys don't buy back, and you're down to a 4-handed game, and then it just kind of peters out, and it's over with. And that could easily happen at any point. You can get a PLO hand where 4 out of the 6 go all in, 3 guys bust, and just table down, right?
Right, and then you need 2 guys there that are ready to fill in,
to jump in, but are comfortable with waiting, because the problem is too that at that 6-handed game, they just keep trading money back and forth, and people are reloading. It could go on forever.
Right, if the right people get stuck, like if the fishy guys are winning, and then the guys that brought $6,000 are
right. For a 1-2 game,
stuck, they're gonna be firing all day to get their money back, and the fish ain't gonna leave with money because they want to play all day, and the pros that are stuck aren't gonna leave because the fish has all the money, and then the 2 guys waiting never get in the game, and it sucks for them. So it's tough to convince 8 people to show up when 2 of them might not get a seat for 6 hours. And then that just turns into
it's a weird dynamic of
it is
trying to get because really what you need, perfect world, is you need a 6-handed PLO game with like a 6-handed feeder game going,
right?
And kind of
so really you need 12 guys.
And the problem is that the live games are dying for the fact that it's like hard to get everybody there at one time, and you really need a better start time. It's difficult. So anyways,
because a 9-handed game, it's very easy to lose 2 players, go down to 7. I know I got more guys on the way. Yep. There's a list.
People are still going to play.
Yeah, you got to lose 4 guys to get to 5-handed, and then even still,
I'm cool with 5-handed. I got 3 guys on the way.
For an hour, because guys are on the way.
We'll keep going.
That's much
you really
easier.
Need to go from like 9 to like 4, and even 4-handed with people going. So, anyways, long story short,
it's tough.
We like short-handed games. I think no limit hold'em games should be played 8 max, and PLO games should be played 7 max. It's new standard. That's the way it should be from now on, and that people should get on board with this. I am petitioning for 2021. Poker Ken 2021 wants. This is what my platform for my voting ability is, that this is good for the game. It makes better games. Because let's be honest, I know Doug Polk was joking about more rake is better, right? It was like a FU to the casinos and the online games saying more rake is better. Duh, more rake is better. It kind of is.
More rake is better.
Hear me out. It kind of is. I don't mean that you want... There's a fair line between poker rooms and poker players. Poker rooms have to make money in order to keep the games going. Poker players need to feel like they're getting some type of service and something for that rake. The games they want, like you have... It's a two-way street. You got to do both. Poker players can't bitch about the rake and then then the poker rooms close and then they got nowhere to play, right? So they go hand in hand. Poker management
There's a fine line.
And poker players got to find a common ground, a Geneva Convention of poker, right? so that we can get a happy medium so that everybody can make this work, because the poker room's got to be happy and the players got to be happy in order for games to thrive. And I think pitching these 7-handed mixed games, 8-handed no limit games is great for everybody, because poker rooms are going to dig it because they're going to get more games. Because if you got 30 guys in the old days, that was 3 tables. Now at 8-handed, I can't even do the math that fast. How fast? That's four games?
Yep.
Is that all it
That's
is?
4 games.
It's an extra game an hour. But for the casinos, that's a huge petition for them to want to do poker, because, again, let's be honest, during our current pandemic, poker rooms in Illinois are not open, and they're not open not because of COVID. They're not open because the poker
They don't make enough money.
They don't make enough money for the casino. If the casino has to pick and choose what games they want to play, poker is dead effing last. Right?
Right. So another side point on the more rake is better is a little bit different angle, but the higher the rake is, the less, rake conscious players are going to be in the game, right?
Okay.
I mean,
I'm following you. Not sure
like
where
me,
you're going,
like,
but I follow you.
I'm just saying, like, for the more rake is better pitch, like there's an app club that they charge $20 rake a hand. No joke. $2, $4. They charge $20 rake a hand. Game's full. I would never, ever, ever in a million years play in that game.
Right.
I mean, how could you ever beat it? But yet it's full.
Right.
9-handed game, completely full.
So
how bad are those players?
With that being said,
are those players?
You want to get in that game because those players are so bad, because they're willing to overpay, and it's like, well, shit, I got to get in on that. These guys are easy money.
Right. So this is like the weird fine line of, I would never play that game, but I have to play that game.
Well, and the side note, and I know we have a weird view of this because, we have CCG and Paramount, where we both have direct connections to them to, the profitability of the games from the casino side. But yet we're also poker players that love to play poker. So we also, we're a good combo of like the middle ground that seems to not exist.
Consumer and both of them.
Both sides of this equation. I can kind of educationally, nope, that's not a word, make an educated guess on both sides, because I'm on both sides. I understand both sides. But you're right. It's so funny that really poker players, in the grand scheme of things, if you ask them what's more important, action or rake, what is every single poker player going to say?
Action.
Action for sure. I don't care if it's a free raked game with 9 duds that are just 9 rocks, not even nits, 9 rocks that are not going to play a single hand.
Yeah, I'm out.
Or
No.
Hey, come play over here in this crazy game where the table's kind of shitty. You're a little bit in the lesser desirable areas of the world, and yet these guys are dumping money left and right. But it's a $25 a hand rake. You're going, free rake over here, but 0 action. Crazy rake and crazy action. Yes, please. I will go with the crazy price.
Right. Like if I had a gun in my head and I had to pick a game, it would always be the $25 rake in action.
Now, obviously, you would like to find somewhere in the middle, and that's what we're trying to pitch on this idea of more rake is better. And I think the underlying game plan here is that if we could convince poker players that 8-handed is the new norm, which we are forcing ourselves to play short-handed games, because everywhere in the planet that's playing poker is playing short-handed. This is a great test. I want to use this as a test product to say, guys, look, this is a great idea. This is something we should keep. It's just, it is what it is.
Right. And then from the player side, it's very easy to pitch because there's going to be more action.
More action. More action is good.
Faster.
Faster's
and
great.
Then from the casino side, you can say, hey, look.
You're going to make more money.
You have 80 players, and now you have 10 games, where 80 players on 9-handed would be 7 games or 8 games.
Right.
So you get 2 more games an hour.
And you got those are considered slightly short-handed, where the players are going to bitch about wanting to get extra players, or you're 1 player away from breaking a table, whereas like it's better for everybody. Except the nits. But nobody likes nits. Get rid of them.
Right. I mean, you need like one.
This is the No Nit podcast. Hashtag No Nits.
Really, that should have been our podcast name.
Damn it. Trademark.
NNA.
Alex is a patent attorney.
Allowed.
What is it?
NNA.
No Nits allowed.
I like it.
Maybe we could change it. Season 3. No Nits allowed.
Yeah. I mean, to be real though, I mean, nobody likes a nit. I mean, just give a little bit of action.
Even nits.
You can still play good.
Right.
Yeah, no, nits don't even like nits.
No.
You can still play good and just give a normal amount of action.
My favorite thing is when a nit comes up to me, it's like, man, freaking table's so tight. I'm thinking, seriously, bro? You are tighter than an Amish girl on prom. I don't even know if that's a thing or appropriate to say, but whatever. Like it's the best thing. It's like you and I. You love it because sometimes, and we're letting out the Brandon secrets here on the podcast.
Yeah.
So I get into my serious voice. People at the Horseshoe have a tendency to think you're a nit, correct?
Yeah.
Or a tight player. You got a tight player. I never get that image. But you're like, it's so great to be a secret wild man, secret action player, and yet everybody thinks you're a nit. Like you can get plays through that you wouldn't be able to get through because they think that you got a really good hand because you're kind of the tight nit guy. It's great. To be
correct
branded a nit and not actually be a nit is like the best case scenario because you're going to get all your plays through and you're going to get paid off as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Now you're letting out the secrets.
Yeah, sorry. Please don't listen to any of that really great information of our new No Nits Allowed podcast, the sub podcast of the Overlay of Poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker Radio. And
like
also,
if you're going to be a nit, just don't embrace it. Like at least like pretend that you're
right.
not.
Occasionally make some crazy plays where people are going to be like, he's a nit, but sometimes he goes full moon werewolf on us and turns out to be a wild man.
Yeah, it's just
turns
it's
out
bad
to be
for the game.
like
it's bad for everything.
A Jerry Yang, our Jerry Yang, not the real Jerry Yang.
Yes. Where he's actually secretly a little nitty, but everyone thinks he's crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. He does the perfect. He does the gear shift. He's the crazy man. Whoop whoop whoop. Then he morphs. He transforms. Remember Transformers?
Yep.
He transforms into a nit. So he goes from crazy person, everybody hates you, I'm going to get that jerk, to now he's a nit. And it's like, I hate that guy, I'm going to get that wild jerk. And then he raises.
Right, but
I re-raise him with ace 10
the transition.
because I'm like, he doesn't have anything. He's a wild person. I've seen him roll over the shittiest hands I've ever seen. And it's like, oh, wow. He's got ace queen.
He's got ace king. Yeah.
How is that possible? Which is like the worst feeling when you're like, I'm gonna get that guy, and then it turns out that he switched roles, and then now you fed right into his plan. It's such a great plan.
He just owned you. Yep.
I can't. I always try to do it, but it's hard to stick to those roles. They're very good at it. So being that we're still on this kind of like current state of poker, non-COVID, just state of poker in general, let's go over a couple things. A couple things happened this weekend that are pretty cool. What are they, Brandon? One's an online.
We had the main event.
The unofficial main event online.
I mean, technically it's the official main event.
Is it? So I'm going to talk about two things. Top stories is the 2020 main event online. Is it GG? Right?
Yeah, GG Poker Network. Yep.
So you have to be outside the U.S. or?
Yep. Outside the U.S.
So that's because like originally, like not even the 4 states in the U.S. you can't play on GG. GG is only authorized outside. So that's why all these guys are going to Mexico, going to Canada, going to different places, Caribbean, to play on GG so that they can play in these main events. Now the main event itself got up to what? What was the?
It was a $25 million guarantee, and it was a $5,000 buy-in, and it just cleared. So.
I got you. $5,000 buy-in. It's on cardplayer.com, which is a pretty good website if you guys don't go to it. Not an official sponsor by any means, but I check out Card Player all the time. 5,802 entries. That's how many were in there. Which in reality, the normal main event, the 10K in Vegas, they get like 6K, right? 6,000-7,000.
Right, 6 to 7, 7,800.
61, 62, 64. Those are like the normal numbers for the main event. This is about the same number of players, even though it's just half the buy-in. Almost a $28 million prize pool. Winner to receive $3.9 million. It's the largest online tournament ever. I mean, with obvious reasons, right?
Right.
It's the official 2020 World Series of Poker online main event is what they're calling it.
Okay.
So let's talk about that. Pretty crazy, right? Even when you take the Americans out of the equation, even though the diehards are going to leave and go play in different countries in order to qualify and play for this, right?
Right.
That's a lot of players.
It is. It's a ton. So now they do have the advantage in the fact that they were running satellites for a long time.
For sure.
on GG. So, you got a solid, I'm just going to guess, 800 to 1,000 people qualify for it. So that drives their numbers up a little bit,
Because in reality, what was it? 2012 is the largest of all time, right? Where it was like $12 million for Jamie Gold. What year was that?
Yeah, except for that was way before 2012.
Okay.
That was like 2006 or 5.
No, we always argue about this because I always think it's
look
later.
it up. Look it up.
Look it up. You
look it up. You look it up.
WSOP Main Event.
Jamie Gold.
But the year Jamie Gold played, that was the most players in all time.
That was the biggest one. Yeah.
And it was like 8,000 people or something? 10,000? Who won the first WSOP?
I don't know.
Actually, the first and the second.
Amarillo Slim?
Close, but no. One of those type guys.
Oh, I don't know.
Johnny Moss. Johnny Moss won the first and the second WSOP main event. Doyle Brunson won the 6th, which is pretty crazy. And this
what year is that?
1976. Doyle Brunson won.
Nice.
Stewie Unger, 1980 and 81.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I get derailed.
Fast forward to
You're right. It's 2006. Son of a bitch. $12 million to first. 8,700, 88, almost 8,800 players.
Yep.
And he got $12 million for first place. And then the next year, it went down to like 68, 65, 7,000 in 2010. Never really cracks. It's always between like 6 and 7. Although then we see a resurgence, right?
Yeah, you see a resurgence.
Then
but the reason that it went down
17, it went to like 7,000, 7,800 in 2018. Last year had 8,600 players in it. That's crazy town. Wow. I didn't know that. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think last year was a lot because of the last couple of years have had a lot to do with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency and poker are
flooding the market with extra money people want to play.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think 2010 is the year that Black Friday happened, right?
It is, yeah. That had 7,300 players.
That killed all of the online satellites that the previous 10 years had thrived because of. So there's no more Full Tilt and Poker Stars to qualify for $18. And
no more sponsor money. So that's really when we see the drop off in television as well.
Right. And so then 2010 up through 2017 is kind of like the dead zone of poker. And then you see a resurgence.
Drop. Really 16. And then 17 is when it starts kind of kicking back on. Now you're talking about 7,200 players. And 17, 18's got 7,900 players. 19's got 8,600 players. And then COVID happens and then we can't do any live poker, in which case I feel like it would have gotten, we would have easily broken 9K.
Yeah,
I don't know if it would have gone into, but anyways, here's my two questions. One, and maybe it's the same question. One, would you be comfortable flying to Mexico, playing an online event, even though obviously it's backed by the WSOP? So like if there is a brand in poker to trust, it's the WSOP, yeah?
Right.
I mean, are you comfortable? I mean, again, take yourself out of the situation that you're in now, maybe COVID-less. Would you be comfortable going to another country to play in this? And then is there any worry about getting paid out from GG? Or, I don't really know the semantics and how it works. Do they just go straight to your bank account because you're an American player?
Yeah. No, I mean, it goes into your account. I don't know if you have to verify an address, but like I know a lot of people just like go right over the border to like Tijuana. Is that right over the border? Or what's right over the border?
In California?
Like,
yeah. Tijuana.
South of San Diego.
Sure. Tijuana.
Yeah, and they just like rent out like a hotel room and use that as their like address. And
I mean, we talked about it how many episodes ago about doing like, would you do like the online poker house? I would be
comfortable of it. Yeah, I think because I mean, you could be American and then legally play it in another country and then get your money back into your American bank account. Like that's not illegal.
In the same principle, it's like if I were to go to Monte Carlo and play in a casino that it's legal, absolutely, I can just bring my money home and it's perfectly fine. So I guess that's the same principle, is that these are licensed, casinos basically where, yeah, if you're in Mexico and you play and you win, it's like bing, bang, boom, cash out your money, bring it home. You're cool. Now you're going to have to pay tax on it. Yeah.
Yes. But I would not be worried. Like if I shipped a main event, last thing I'd be worried about is getting paid. I mean, I guess that'd be the only thing I would. But I mean, I know I'm going to get my money. I mean, taxes and that kind of stuff is a little weird, but
yeah, that's my point.
I've never had to worry about taxes.
I've never won enough to make it.
Never won enough.
And $4 million to first place. I guess we'll figure out what this guy's going to do, or gal, whoever wins.
Right, is it not over yet?
No, I think it's still.
I know there's an American that was like chip leader with 36 left.
I think. I don't think it's over yet. 1 day ago, 19 hours ago. I don't know. You would figure it would be easier to figure out, but
I think we would have known who the winner is on like Twitter or something.
I think so. Yeah, and I haven't seen anything on Twitter, so.
But I know it's down there. It's down to the final.
It might be
at
down
least
to like
36.
I think it's less than that now. I think they were at 36 yesterday, so maybe
So they might
less.
be playing to do a final table.
Anyways, doesn't matter. Second part of my question is, obviously now you tell us that you are comfortable with playing in another country and especially this type of deal. But now let's go even closer. Let's say whoever's going to win this event, which is the pseudo main event of 2020, because it's probably not likely that we're going to have a 2020 live main event this year. Yeah?
Right.
I know a couple months ago we were like,
no.
At this point, I would bet the no. I just don't think it's going to happen. Does this person win being that it is the main event of the year and it's run by the WSOP, even though it's outside the United States? Like, are you a main event winner? Is there just no main event winner? And it's just like when you look back in like the 40s when it's like World Series champ, canceled due to World War II, World Series champ. Like, they played in those games. Ben Hogan won a U.S. Open in Chicago during World War II, but it did not count because it was the unofficial U.S. Open because they canceled the U.S. Open due to, the world being at war.
I think it's just like I think he still gets the main event crown, but it's like an asterisk. I think it's the same thing for all.
So,
sports.
Is his picture going to be up season next year?
Yeah, I think this picture will be up.
Now, do you think it's only up because they want to boost online sales for next year?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because like they want the consistency of the brand, and there's a main event champion every year.
It's weird because
this is as good as they got this year, so he wins.
Because like you and I, our generation, even though we're 10 years apart, I'm claiming the same generation. We don't have anything where like stuff was canceled due to some outside source that was so crazy like this pandemic, right?
Right.
It's like it's weird to think about that. Like,
right, I have nothing to compare it to.
Man, me neither. 9/11 maybe, but like they didn't cancel anything in 9/11. The only thing going on was football and the
baseball.
World Series, and the World Series continued on. Right?
Yeah, I had Cubs tickets for September.
They did
11th.
cancel. I remember they canceled the Ryder Cup, and they like pushed that back a year because it was in September, and they had no other week to do it. That's like the week they do the Ryder Cup. Used to be in September, and they pushed it back. Just like, yeah, we're just going to push it back a year. So they did cancel that a year. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem with 9/11 is not that it's a problem, but it's a single event that happened and it's over. And I mean, obviously the war and all that stuff happened because of it.
Different,
but it's way different. This is like an ongoing.
Right.
This is 6 months in. I mean,
yeah, we have no idea when this is going to end.
Right. We're in the middle of this cloud storm. We don't know when it's going to, clear up. It's different than 9/11. 9/11 happened. Obviously, there was uncertainty around the country for the week that ensued, and obviously the cleanup and death numbers and that kind of stuff. But it was a singular event where sports could
much
safely return a week later, and everything. Like I said, I had Cubs tickets that day, September 11th, 2001. I had tickets to go to the Cubs game. I think my dad still has the tickets.
That's kind of weird.
It is because I remember like being in 6th grade and like watching it on TV and being like, man, I wonder if the Cubs game is going to get canceled tonight because I'm supposed to go, and it did. But they started baseball up 2-3 days later.
Yeah. I think it was only a couple days.
The NFL didn't miss a game, and it's just different.
Yeah, bad comparison by me.
Well,
what else happened this weekend? The MSPT.
Yep.
They opened up, which is the first mid-stakes poker tour to reopen since COVID. No HPT yet. Any word on when they're going to start again?
No, I haven't heard no word on the HPT.
But now it was a great turnout, like the MSPT, and that was over in the very west end of Iowa, like the Iowa-South Dakota border.
So it is in Iowa or it's in South Dakota?
I think it's in Iowa, but it's like Sioux Falls, Iowa, which is like literally on the border of Sioux City, which is, what you call it? South Dakota.
All right. So, yeah, they had a good turnout. I mean,
like almost 500 entrants.
Right.
Did you Do we ever
What
figure
is their
out?
pre-COVID numbers?
I mean, it was
It's obviously very, very like a venue dependent.
yeah. I think I read online that it was the largest Iowa state tournament that they'd ever had
Okay, so there you go.
in
That's
general.
pretty good.
So like, even though it was brand new, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 8. Were they playing 8-handed, 7-handed full games? Any idea what the?
I thought it was full ring. Full ring with masks required.
It looked heavy. I don't know the official if it was 8, 9, or 10.
It certainly wasn't 6. It certainly wasn't 6.
It was not a short-handed game. Bad for our.
It was 7, 8, or 9.
Bad for our pro short-handed game episode, but
I mean, maybe they were just 8-handed and they listened to us and was like, "We're going 8-handed, new normal."
Yeah, Grand Falls Casino Resort, but pretty cool. Yeah, they had a great turnout. It was a good tournament. Let's see if anything happens.
It's good to see a live tournament back and running.
A big live tournament like that,
right?
Like a
real tournament.
Yeah, they're the first ones back. So I didn't really see any like shout outs about like, how dare yous or any of that stuff. Like I'm looking on their Twitter feed right now and I don't see anything that was like rough about it. Like, what are you guys doing or anything along those lines? So it's nice that people are starting to get back into the idea of that they want things to get back to where we were. I mean, everybody wants improvement.
It is September.
It's a long time.
It is.
All right, well, that's really going to do it for this episode of the pros and cons of more rake. More rake is better, is this episode. It's transformed.
Really quick. We never really talked really super quick. We didn't talk about the negatives.
By you saying really super quick kind of slows down. So it's like the opposite of being really super quick.
Okay, but then you make these comments, which makes it even slower.
Yeah, it's part of my
here we
plan.
are.
Yeah.
The only
1 minute later, we haven't done anything.
Right. The only knock on shorthanded play is games tend to evaporate really quick.
Yeah.
And if you got 6-handed and then it's 5-handed and then the guy's sitting out in his forehand, all of a sudden it's like game on pause.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, let's just give it a second here, guys. Like we are one or two players away from being full. Like I understand you get down to 3 and you don't want to play, but you got to give it 10 minutes to like reignite. That's all we ask for is 10 minutes. And I know that games just blow up really quick because people have to walk and people have to leave and people bust and there's not always a list. So that always sucks.
That is something to throw in there because like it is official that when you're playing in a shorter handed game, especially 6-handed now that we're doing pandemic poker, 6-handed players, like if one guy gets up to go smoke, nobody else is allowed to leave the table. Like you have to stay.
I mean, you can cash out.
You can leave.
If you bust.
But you can't go smoke. I was
no other walking players.
No other walkers. Like you are there. That third man walking really turns into the second man walking. They're out. You got to wait until you can't even go to the bathroom.
Yeah. And it's just it's just common courtesy for the table. You
Correct.
Wouldn't want a guy smoking and then a second guy going out to eat when you're not going to leave.
Correct. It's like, all 3 of us are going to go smoke and half the game's gone. Then and then like the 3 players there are like, well, there's 3 open seats. There's 1 open seat at each of the other 3 games. Like we want to go sit over there. And then next thing you know, it's like game down. 3 guys come back from smoking. It's like, what the heck happened to our chicks? Happened? Well, you guys left, not chicks, chips. What happened? You guys left, and this is where we're at. So there are some negatives to it. The games, like you said, they do evaporate a little faster, but I think the benefits outweigh the disadvantages.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the only disadvantage I can even think of, and it took me an hour to think of it.
38 minutes. Well, that's going to do it for episode 26. Thanks, as always, for listening and supporting the podcast here at the Overlay Poker Studios. We don't really have those. It's just my office and you at home talking on the phone.
Right. I'm at home watching tennis.
But definitely, please, folks, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It is super easy, and it helps the podcast Incredibles amount. Not like The Incredibles, but an incredible amount. And it's very simple. It literally takes 2 seconds. All you have to do is just hit that 5-star review and go forward. If you hate us and you want to give us 4-star reviews, still cool. We'll take it. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at @the_overlay_pod. Brandon, take us out. Anything you want to say?
No, nothing. Play shorthanded games, guys. They're good games.
More rake is better.
Don't be a nit.
Don't be a nit. No nits allowed. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.